Hello and welcome to the official Motherboards Podcast. I am Matt Hamrick with Motherboards. And in today's episode, a Catholic priest shares some surf stories. We talk about the elements of the ocean that draw us to its living water. And what's up with everyone's fascination with night surfing?
It just goes out straight like that when I eat cheese.
Only when you eat cheese, though.
Obviously. Right? Can't be having it just out there.
It's a mustache that knows its place.
Yeah, exactly. I got my Jeep fixed today, and then they didn't charge me for it. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
I still don't understand why, but the lady was just like, okay, there's no charge. And I was like, okay, no, but seriously, how much? So
I've been looking at a lot of new cars recently with my mother-in-law who's shopping for a vehicle. We've been to all kinds of dealerships, and looking at all of these new cars makes me think I'll be driving a van for the rest of my life.
Why do you say that?
You got to put a 10-footer in it, baby.
That was literally my criteria for buying a vehicle. I had like just bought my house, and I was driving this Ford Escape that wasn't even that, okay, maybe it was like 10 years old, but it started turning off like while I was driving. But I loved it was like the Escape was perfect that year. You could fit a longboard if I just put all the seats down from back to front. And I'm like, I know myself, if I'm rolling out of bed early in the morning, which I'm trying to do for those surfs, I need to have the easiest way to get down to the beach. So when I was like shopping for new cars, I was like, I don't care what I drive as long as I can put the seats down and fit. And like my 9.4 now, if I angle it, like I still can use my rear view mirror too, which I couldn't do that in the Escape.
So you definitely don't want to speed that process up, because I used to have that vehicle. I had the Mazda Tribute, which is the same as the Ford Escape. And you can put a 10-footer actually in there. But if you put it in there so fast, you can smash your windshield.
Yeah.
I did that once, going too quickly.
I've done that with lumber from Home Depot several times. Once I did it twice in a month. It's when you close that trunk door and
it shuts it. Yeah. If you don't have the right angle on it.
I was able to break a windshield without using the help of the trunk.
You just slammed it in there. The first car I ever drove was, and I'm pretty sure that I had it when we would go on trips down to the Outer Banks to go surfing, because I never went down to the Outer Banks before I met you guys. It was a Dodge Chrysler minivan, and it had, like 3 rows. It was beautiful. It was ugly. It was boxy. It had a top speed of like 65.
I remember
it. So many people and just all of our surfboards on top of it. And I want to say, you would have to like fact check me on the dimensions, but I want to say that I got the 10-foot foam board that Jamie bought down in the Outer Banks in my car from like back to front, angled diagonally with the whole thing shut.
I think you can.
That thing would hold a lot of surfboard. Oh, but then the funny thing, the reason you made me think of it was its problem. I would be going down the highway, and all of a sudden, all of the gauges would like red line and then go to nothing. And it would just have this like death tone of beep, and no idea what my car was doing. But I found like if I was going down the highway fast enough, I could throw it in neutral while we're driving, turn it off and turn it on again, and throw it back in drive and keep going. Don't know what that was, but
low risk move.
Yeah, no big deal.
But yeah,
that out. We don't need an advice from Father Dan portion.
Having a van and having Virginia Beach waves, which means I'm going to want a longboard often enough. It's when I got my wife's hand-me-down, when she got the new Sienna and I have our old Sienna. It's the best. I mean, you understand why surf vans are a thing.
Well, Father Dan just gave me flashbacks to one of those Outer Banks day trips, surf trips. Afterwards, I sat right across from this gentleman and watched him eat a 2-pound Viking burger at Spanky's.
Yeah.
He went for the challenge, and he did it. lot of grease dripping down that chin. That beard probably would have held it all. Now,
Yeah, it would have kept it all right there for me.
I still
Your
have
mustache should have just gone straight out.
Yeah, it's so much cheese on that.
It was gross. I have this visual still of you and just grease and cheese like dripping off of you. You were determined.
Yeah.
And you got it.
Did you keep
And I went
it?
back and I ordered it like a couple more times, like throughout the years. It's not a pretty burger. Like it's very ugly when it comes out, and you just look at it and you're like, all right, one
But
of us is going down.
you got your name on the wall.
Yeah, multiple times now,
Yeah.
Totally worth it.
obviously,
I'll have to stop by there next time in the Outer Banks so I can see your name.
clearly.
Yeah, but Spanky's food Ben can give a nice history of.
It's all we can afford. It's all we could afford.
It is what you pay for.
Your name on a wall.
It was 2 pounds of meat, okay?
It was.
Yeah, well, I just got a new board myself. I brought a little show and tell
Yo.
to a coat hanger. It's just got a little hook. It's a little surfboard. It's just me. I don't need a multiple coat rack.
Yeah.
One year for Christmas, I hand-shaped a hand plane for Ben.
Yeah.
Like
I love
so
it.
he could do some professional body surfing. That was a fun project. But we're talking, 16 inches long, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a little over a foot, so it might be 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just like hold it in your fingers or something.
I have one here shaped by a different guy. Let me grab it.
Yeah.
So here's
Oh, okay.
one by Angry Octopus. You just slip your hand in here. Run it. Got some channels in there. I think you can kind of see them.
Mhm.
Nice V channel through the back.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
I have a question on surf reporting. I've heard people complaining a lot lately about Surfline. Have you noticed like any change in the quality of their reports or forecasting?
So I think all true surfers have to complain about Surfline. What I look at for Surfline is what the buoy readings really are. And so the buoy readings aren't going to lie, and the tide's not going to lie. And then I'll look at a wind report and kind of build my own, is it going to be worth it? If you go with their actual reports, I mean, you're going to be disappointed probably pretty often. Yeah.
I stopped paying for the cam access, so I've just been trying to read like what the buoys are saying versus what the tide will be, and just going off of that because reading the forecast, I don't know. I feel like it also changes so much, but I don't know. I've heard more people complaining about it. And they're like, it's because like we miss Magic Seaweed. I think I saw something on social media like Magic Seaweed was better than this Surfline. Like, give it back. This is all the big surf man has come in and taken away from the little surfers. And I was like, or you can just go down and surf, but I don't know.
No, Gabry, you're right. There is always this recurring pattern where people give Surfline a hard time, right? Like the reports they're not accurate. I'm going to go somewhere else. And then eventually everyone gets back on Surfline because they're all over the world and they're comprehensive and they've got a lot of good experience doing this. But one of Ben and I's surf buddies will always say, a forecast is just a forecast, right? So it's a model of what a forecast could be doing in Virginia Beach. And the best thing is always to check what the buoys are actually doing. And once you get those buoys dialed in, like, swell direction is going to work for Virginia Beach, or it's going to work for, Nag's Head or, Rodanthe. That's when you can get it pretty dialed in. When it's period, swell direction, height, and you're looking at the actual buoys. Everything else is a model, though.
Yeah.
And how that model interacts with our bathymetry, our shoreline, what the wind's doing, there's so many factors.
Yeah.
So I don't see a pen and pad going there, Gabry. I'm going to need you to take
I'm
notes
pulling
on
up
this.
Surfline. Well, no, because I'm surfing with a friend tomorrow, and of course the surf has changed since. Yeah. Okay. Well, it happens. It's Virginia Beach.
If we want to talk about the perks of Surfline, something you can do with the camera rewind is you say, okay, it's high tide tomorrow at noon. When's the last high tide? Rewind the cam to then. If the swell is similar, which sometimes it is, if it's within 24 hours, you go, oh, hey, it was breaking at high tide. Great, I'll go.
Yeah.
I do that once in a while to try to figure out if I think the current swell will break at the tide.
Yeah, makes sense. When I last year I like started paying for like the Surfline, and I have all these grainy like Surfline rewind videos on my phone. I'm like, so I'm glad I have them though, because like I really like I don't have a lot of video of me surfing, but I'm like I can look back and be like, hey, like I have come a little bit from 12 months ago, a year and a half ago, but man, those grainy little, you're like, yeah, I killed that wave. Like I surfed the crap out of it. And you look at the video and you're like, oh my gosh, what were my arms doing? Why are my shoulders like that? Like, oh man.
Yeah, it's always humbling to see video of yourself surf.
Especially when you're like, that's the biggest wave of my life. And you're like, not even of the day.
That being said, though, I posted grainy footage of myself surfing yesterday from my December 30th surf.
Guys, I did not surf the entire month of December, and I broke a 22-month streak of surfing every month. And so I got to start over. Tomorrow we're starting over. New year, new me, but this is not the new me that I wanted. I'm like, I had a streak going.
It happens.
That was like a New Year's resolution a couple years ago. Was like, I've been making, because I was in grad school, and I was like all the excuses about like, well, I work and then I have school and I don't have any. And I was like, no, it's good for me. And so at least once a month I would go out there, even when I was like, I have too much homework. And then you're so much better after you get out of the water that I was like,
yeah,
it became easier.
This is Gabry's story, but she learned to surf in a little coastal town in Ireland. And I don't know, maybe the way the sun works up there, that high up in the northern hemisphere, it stays light that late. But I've heard rumors of like some 11 p.m. surfs.
Yes, it was. I think it must have been like near summer solstice. Is that what it's called? Longest day of the year. That time of year. And it would be crazy where like last light would be like till 11:30 at night, where now I will say that the one particular surf I'm thinking of was one of those like beautiful, perfect moments in time where it was just like perfect easy waves rolling in for a beginner surfer. I was out there with a bunch of friends. I was still on a foamy at the time, and like the sun is setting and none of us really want to get out of the water. And it was funny because as it got darker, you could watch the waves coming in based on the white water breaking along the cliffs. So you'd be able to just time your paddle in based off of like, okay, if it's breaking over there right now, then like, this is when the wave will come to me. That was, I think, the same night, like a bunch of us are just like playing and splashing around. And I realized that like I'm actually like very afraid of seals in the water, because I was like, sharks not really gonna bug me. Like Northern Ireland, like northern coast of Ireland, there's not a ton of sharks out here. But seals, I've heard that they're aggressive. And so like that same night, like it's getting dark, a seal like pops its head up, and I'm like, it's coming, it's gonna grab me. And one of my friends had, of course, swam up under me and then grabbed my leg, and then I'm like, it's happening. And I was like, this is it. This is how it happens. But it was just like one of those perfect nights, like a late surf. I think we got out at 11:30, and just, I mean, at that point it was starlight, but those like perfect summer nights where, I mean, and at that point the water's always cold in Ireland, but it was like warm enough to not be uncomfortable in the air. So it was my favorite memory, I think, of surfing.
Sounds magical.
Yes, absolutely magical.
I love that visual of like the white water breaking along the rocks, and then you seeing that and turn around like, let's go.
And every wave was a party wave, of course, that night. So we're like, everybody go for this one. And my one friend had actually been visiting from the States. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to push you in, and like someone's going to push me. And like we had a whole train of like people like, let's get this wave. It was amazing. The beach is called Tullen Strand, I think, and it was just like the most secluded. Like you had to walk down the cliffs to get to the beach, so there wasn't like easy access. There was like a very narrow gravel road that I remember walking when you'd walk down barefoot, like carrying like two foamies, like with somebody else behind you, and your feet are like bleeding. And you're like, we're gonna make it. But it was like the best place. Like it was very like, I mean, Irish surfing, I realized isn't as big as I thought it was when I was learning. I was like, everybody knows that Ireland's like the best place to surf. But it was it was like such a quiet, like magical little beach, or long beach, actually, just long, and like would break perfectly because the cliffs would protect that sandbar. It was all beach break.
Sounds like a good spot.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of the little penguin dude from Surf's Up. You're like the tiny little northern, like nowhere surf village. You're like, everyone knows about it, right?
Everyone's like, no, why would you pick Ireland and not like Hawaii or literally anywhere else? Like,
because the Malloys put it on the map.
Yeah, indeed.
I don't know about you guys, but like, do you go surfing at night a whole lot? I'm more of a daytime, morning. Like, I don't do a whole lot of nighttime surfing. Mostly because the few times I have, I can't see the waves.
I do nighttime surfing in the fall when the sun's setting early and I'm like rushing off after work. So I'll like make it down, and if I only have like 30 minutes till the sun sets, like I'll stay until after dark.
Okay.
There's a couple times I freaked my own self out because I'll be at like First Street. I'm like, nothing's gonna happen. There's a jetty here, and then then there's no one on the beach, and I'm like, this is First Street. It shouldn't be empty. There should be people here, and it is definitely like your surfing really goes downhill after you're trying to paddle blind, but that's the only time to get in.
More people surf in the dark at First Street before the sun comes up than after the sun goes down.
Yeah, that I would believe.
So in the mornings.
So I'm the only crazy person down at First Street. Like, it's 7 o'clock at night, but it's pitch black.
Well, I remember maybe in my college years going out at night, like literally at midnight or something at the North End in Virginia Beach, and having a good time. And my dad saying, so sometimes they'll lose a whole boat at sea for days. What are the chances that they could find just a person if something were to happen?
And you showed him. Now you're out there every morning getting lost.
Well, maybe. No, but when you're surfing at First Street, at the very least, the sun is coming up pretty soon versus, in 8 hours or 6 hours. And then secondly, in the mornings, you're not going to be in the water alone. There's going to be other folks out there. And then there's other ways to see at First Street. So I'm out there. I'll share this one story with you. I was out there with my friend Jamie. It was October before the time change. We were surfing before work, and it was dark, like all the way dark. There was no moonlight. There was no dawn. But there was a really good swell coming through the water. It was probably 4 or 5 feet. You pedal out through the breakers, and you feel the swell moving underneath you as the smaller ones would go beneath you. And when the bigger ones came, you needed to turn to run and gun. And at the quarter-mile buoy blinks every 2 seconds. And so you'll be sitting there riding up and down, keeping an eye on that buoy. And if it missed a blink or two, you knew a swell was coming at the quarter-mile mark. So he's like, how do you know how do you keep going and knowing which ways to go for? I said, I watch the buoy. And when it disappears, when there's nothing but blackness, not even that red light and the green light, then I know. So that's one way to see in the dark.
Father Dan, I'm with you. Like, these are the intricacies of night surfing that I really could care less for.
Yeah. Like, call me a loser.
Just wait till the sun is shining and you see the wave.
Right. I mean, so someone jokes about people paddling out with a headlamp, and I've heard that guys actually do that, like at San Onofre. I've never been out there that early, but I've heard the guys actually do that.
Is that like more or less likely to attract sea animals?
I mean,
That's why I don't want to go surfing at night. Like,
I'm like, then you can't see it coming, but maybe that's better. You know, like when I realized, I mean, although I will say the day that I got hit by a shark, I saw it first, and that was kind of worse to like be like, I need to get out of the water right now. But like, I don't know if I would just rather have been like, oh, that was a fish, you know?
Okay,
So rare.
I've got questions now. Where were you when this happened?
Dam Neck?
we need exact coordinates.
Yeah, somewhere on Dam Neck Beach.
Really?
Yeah. It was, my friend had seen it because I saw the silver fin and I was like, that was for sure a dolphin, but there was only one. And so I'm like watching and I'm like, it's not surfing like dolphins do. And I don't see it anymore. So I was like, whatever. It was just a big fish. And then I paddled back out and my friend's like, yeah, did you see that? Like that, it's only like 4 feet. But I'm like, I don't like that. He's like, yeah, there's a little shark out here. And then I had surfed a wave and just like, you know, hopped off my board on the sandbar. And it kind of feels like when a puppy can't stop itself, like it just like ran through my legs. And then I was like, nope. I was like screaming like a little girl. I'm like, I don't care. It didn't try to do anything. It just ran into me, but I am done. Like I'm out. I like, you know, when you're on the board and your feet are like, I like tucked my feet up like over my head. I was like, I'm not touching this water. I'm not going to be the next Bethany Hamilton. All respect to her.
How did you get out? Were you like not?
No, really like, this is worse. I'm splat. Now I know you're not supposed to splash.
Yeah,
But
right.
I was just like, I can't touch it. I can't touch the water.
Now you look like an injured sea creature.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I limped my way in, screaming,
That-
calling any of the little shark mama that was out there with the baby.
That shark thinks that lady just tried to step on me.
Yeah. I was just trying to make friends.
Although I will say the Surfline cameras, after a certain time, they like switch. Like, I don't know how, but like I watched it almost like switch into like a night vision where it went from like one grainy clip where you couldn't really see me. And then the next one, you're like, oh, that's me. I'm catching the wave. I'm glowing in the dark as I ride this wave. Oh, and like, look at that. There was a person in the water and I almost hit them. I just didn't see it. Like, got footage of those ones too.
Yeah, I have a friend that says that Surfline footage will one day be used in the court of law. But yeah, the Surfline night camera seems to have some sort of special night vision on it these days.
It's still grainy though, right?
Oh, you can't see faces. You have to know who's who.
You can't see faces in the daytime. It's just
You
right.
can't.
It's just that you can see what the wave looks like, where it's breaking, how long it's breaking for, things like that.
Disclaimer: we're not sponsored by Surfline.
We're sponsored by this right here.
Motherboards.
I thought I'd throw that in there. Ben got to
Yeah.
ride this board recently. Yeah, lots transpired since the last episode. Christmas, New Year's,
Yeah.
and outrageously epic swell that came through the East Coast.
Yeah. And then the
New
West.
Jersey went. New Jersey was nuking, as Ben Gravy would say, and Virginia Beach was like all time that Monday the 18th, like firing, just firing.
It's because I left the state 2 days before. I was like looking at all of like the posts. I was like going through Instagram, like searching like Virginia Beach surf because those waves, those pictures were killing me. That was insane. I can't believe I missed it. I mean, I could not have surfed it, but I wanted to see it.
Well, this is the nature of the ocean, right? I showed up Tuesday morning expecting Virginia Beach to be good, like good to really good. Everything looked like it was going to be in place. And the wind had turned just enough to blow it to shreds. And so me and a bunch of the old guys, we just stood and, drank our coffee and talked for 45 minutes watching the waves. And like, that's just what the ocean will do to us. You just never know. Like the wind will just turn a little bit. And so I missed the epic like the peak of the swell. Ben and I got some of it later that week, but
I think it's a gift, though. The inconsistency makes you appreciate it when it is there.
You
Makes
can't
you
take
appreciate it when you get surprised at how good it is when you thought it was going to be bad, and learn to just go with the flow.
yeah, actually, I was thinking about that with this theme for this episode and returning to the living water. For me, if well, I should preface it by saying a wise man once said Jesus called himself the living water, not the living mountain. But like life can be as unexpected as the ocean, right? That's a little aside to a tree planted by living water. But it's like you never know, right? The ocean will give you, it can look very different. Like in the course of 2 days or a season, the ocean can look very different. And life can throw that at you too. Just thought about also thought about this idea of like, Gabry, you haven't been in a month and there's this longing to return to the water. And there's really, to me, there's like really this parallel between like this renewal that you get when you have not surfed in a long time and you return to the water. And then this same type of renewal you get when you come back to a really good experience with the Lord, and like you haven't tasted the goodness of the Lord in a while, and you come back and it's like, oh man, like that's what I've been missing. Like as surfers, we all do that, like where we're out of the water for a while, and we return to it and like you forget how good it is.
It makes me think there's I'm trying to find it, but I can't. It's not, my scripture app's not working right now. My soul longs for you like a
Psalm 63.
I don't know. Is it? You might know better. But two of them. My soul longs for you like a dry and thirsty land.
Yeah,
And
Psalm
then
63.
the second one I was thinking is like as a deer longs for running water, right? Like that idea of the life-giving water, of having that thirst that you're talking about, like whether it's that thirst for the ocean, that thirst for the Lord, that thirst for whatever we're thirsting for, that feeling of being drawn back to the source.
Yeah, when I read Psalm 1, the law of the Lord is his joy. On his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted near streams of water that yields its fruit in season. Its leaves never wither. That image is always like a palm tree next to the ocean, because there's something about the ocean, because it's always moving, because it's not stagnant, right? It's tidal. It's always moving. It's alive. To me, that tree is planted near the ocean, and it's tapped into water that gives life. Kind of like the Ezekiel image, where the stream that runs out of the temple produces life everywhere it goes. You familiar with that passage? And then in the end, it dumps into the ocean. When they follow that stream far enough, it produces life everywhere it goes. Trees, fish, everything. And then it spills into the ocean at the end. To think that the Lord can produce fruit in us, whether we think we're in season or not, if we're tapped into his living water, I think that's a really cool image and a cool promise, really.
Even if you look at the words of the psalm, verse 3 is talking about how the water gives life. Verse 4 says the wicked are not so, they're like chaff which the wind drives away. Like it's the absolute absence of water, right? Chaff being like that fine powdery stuff that just isn't needed, and it's that lack of moisture. It's so just without life, and it's just showing the dichotomy that that source, that connection, that spirit, that living water just gives and moves us. It innervates us to experience everything, that spiritually, physically, just being in tune with and part of everything. Not to get too hippie on you.
I think one of the things that I like about surfing is after talking about having that refreshing, getting back to the water. I think of the verses that surfing makes me think about as I'm doing it, or the joy that I get from it. And the beginning is that I think about a lot. It's Luke, from the beginning of the Canticle of Mary. My soul glorifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior. And surfing to me brings me to that grateful place. You just feel so grateful and alive, and you feel filled through God's creation. And maybe this is a little bit of a night surfing verse that I think about is the Psalm 19:1. And I've been at the ocean front for so many sunrises, and sure, sometimes it's just gray. But Psalm 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. It goes a little bit more into like day and night stuff happening. And you get there and you see that sky, and you see that, we talked about this last time, that sky, those colors reflected off the water. Sometimes the water, this is just on fire, red and orange and gold. And you're just splashing in it. And it's a great way to start the day. Definitely gets your head in the right spot. And it allows you to turn the right spot of that focus of not just gratitude, but who to show gratitude to.
There's also something in it, in the idea of like being filled up to be able to pour out, like going first to the water. I mean, Ben, you're using the example more of like at the sunrise, and I just think of like at the start, like if you begin there, and like, I mean, it goes right with that verse, Matt, with like the living water, like where are you drawing your strength from? Where does it come from? And like that whole verse 1, like whatever he does prospers because he has that like water running through. And I feel like with surfing, it is like a very like, this is gonna sound hippie, but I feel like the water like goes into me, and like it changes my brain. Like I think like of the amount of people that I mean, our world is hurting and crying, and people are going everywhere, whether it's like, necessary like mental health help and medication and whatever. But it's like, what if we just started with like going and like getting some salt water in our brains to like cleanse it, and like to be going back to like to fill ourselves like with what the Lord has given us, and to be able to like come out of that so refreshed. I don't know. I don't think I've ever had a bad surf. I've had a bad, I maybe have had some like experiences that weren't great, but I've never gotten out of the water. Even if I've gone out and just been pummeled the whole time, like the Lord has never wasted any of those experiences. Even if it's just, oh my gosh, I'm scared. Thank God I survived this well. But just that whole like idea of like that water is just so like, it just charges you back up and fills you back up to be able to get out of the water and go to the people, to the dry land, and help them. I don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I mean, so for me, that's why I love sharing surfing with people. I have extra boards just so that I can take people surfing. Come with me sometime. Happy to teach you. Happy to take you out. I've got an extra board. Don't worry, you're not going to break it. Come out. We're gonna let me pick the right day when that's going to be great. A good experience. So let me find the weed. Let me find those days, and let me share this with you. And you might love it. You might get hooked. People do. And you want to share these great things that you have with people. The same way. Let me tell you about this great restaurant. Let me tell you about this great whatever other thing. This great movie. Yeah, the fun things in your life that you want to share with people. And I really enjoy being able to share surf with people, especially at sunrise.
Yeah, Gabry, if you stay just a little longer at that night session, you'll run
It'll be a morning session.
You'll run into the First Street
Made
crowd.
it literal full circle, like going all the way.
You'll run into Frank.
Frank will be there, getting in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to me how our human nature quickly forgets what we really need. If you haven't surfed in a month, it's like, man, like you forget how good it is for your soul that you come back a better person. Like you come back a better human being, whether you got trashed, whether you got swept through a pier. Well, or it doesn't matter. Like you could get humbled and be grateful for something that's bigger than yourself, right? Or you could like kill it that session. It's like it's always good. It's always good. And then you just, unless you're Ben and you surf every day, like the rest of us, mere mortals, like we forget how good it is. It's like, and why don't we do that with our prayer life sometimes? It's like there's just this, and God must know how flimsy our human nature can be sometimes. But man, it's good for us when we return to that.
I want to try to find this Eric Liddell quote where, with him, he says something like, God made me fast, and when I run, I feel his glory, or something like that.
While you're looking that up,
he made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure. That's what he said. So it's this thing, this gift that he has. Go do the gift. Feel his pleasure. Win a gold medal for your country.
Well, I was just going to make a parallel. Matt was talking about how, if we haven't been around prayer for a while, I had an experience, not about prayer, but usually with worship, I'm serving and either playing violin or, ministering in prayer, whatever it is. And I went on a young adult conference in December, and I was worshiping for the first time in a really long time, where I wasn't having to serve anybody, and I was able, we were created to worship the creator of the universe. That is what we were made to do. And it was just this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I didn't realize I'd been missing, had been so long. And it was just that. It is funny, how easily in my mind it's the exact same thing, with the ocean, when I'm I haven't been in too long. I get in and I'm this is where I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to be worshiping the Lord, right now.
It's an expression of joy, right?
Yeah.
Praise is joy. So mine, I can definitely piggyback off that, because it actually, it came out of a theological learning and understanding. I guess I must have been 14, 15, I don't know. And I was just learning about Mary and devotion and whatnot. And it's funny, someone actually said this to me today. But the idea that Mary is representative of the moon, and that she doesn't have any glory of her own to shine with, but she reflects the glory of the sun, her son. And I had heard that, like I said, probably when I was 14, 15. And I was like, wait, so then if the moon controls the tides, then Mary's always out here surfing. So when I get a good wave, Mary's fault. Got to say a Hail Mary after every good wave. So I would couple that with my own at the end of each wave. And I still do it now. I'm just a 37-year-old who's trying harder than a 14-year-old. But I'll do a backflip off my surfboard every time at the end of every good wave, because I'm like, all right, that's my thank you. I can't turn around and bow to the wave, but I can do a backflip off, and because I'm goofy, and then say a Hail Mary as I'm paddling back out. And that's been my tradition of praise while I surf since I was 15.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. But immediately the mom brain, I'm not a mom yet, but mom brain, how do you not flip and land wrong and hit the board or hit the sandbar? Careful.
Yeah, there's definitely times. I mean, you've got to do. So I ride a longboard. I'm out in the deeper water, but I mean, there's some times when you're backflipping into some shallow water. You got to be pretty careful.
Some of those inside breaks, you're I'm breaking on the beach.
Yeah, Father Graham said I should, and I broke my neck. Yeah, please don't do that.
Any last nuggets from the crew?
Wish me luck tomorrow. I'm gonna be chilly. I'm gonna get. I don't have any hood right now, so.
Yeah, hood, no hood. I'm
dress warm, overdress always. That's my thing.
That's why you can do the morning surfs. I'm trying to get out there as simply as possible.
I was sweating in my wetsuit going to the 30th. So
I've got a 4.3.
Let me just throw this at you, and this is what Dave, he's the head manager of WRV. He told me this 10 years ago or so, maybe more. He said, if you need a hood, just buy a hooded wetsuit. It's worth it. You'll love it. It'll be so much warmer than all these attachment things. So,
you would totally not recommend what I'm doing then. I have a vest hood that was the idea was it could fit under, but now that I have a front zip, it doesn't fit. So I'm getting a 2 mil neoprene beanie to just put over my ears because I'm like, as long as I can keep my ears warm. But it's not even a hood. It's not an attachment.
So keep your ears warm, because if you don't, you can eventually get surfer's ear. So that's good. I have the little chin strap hood for that rare occasion. But back then I thought, man, this guy's just trying to sell me another wetsuit. No. He was telling me legitimately what I'm going to enjoy the most, and I have not done a winter surf without an attached hood on a 543 with chest zip in over 10 years.
Hot take: surf warm weather only. Oh,
But I don't live in one of those climates.
I'm just saying.
Father Dan's like strictly summertime.
Hey, look, I don't want to be bougie, but
It's always summertime on the inside of that wetsuit.
yeah.
I will say, have you ever put on a wetsuit and it's a little too warm and you're like, I'm going to like die out here? Or you start paddling for that first wave and you're just like, there's no salt water or there's no seawater. It's all sweat just filling your wetsuit.
That's never happened to me before.
Yes,
I
always.
have never been too warm in the water.
Oh, I always overdress.
Underdress on land, overdress in the water, right?
What? But the water you can swim and you'll be warmer. I say dress warm on land too.
Well, I meant
dress comfortably all the time. I was that controversial.
Yeah, comfortably is what I was going for. Not the suit and tie type thing. Father, I mean, some people only surf when it's warm. Some people only surf when it's dark. So I'll side with you.
I'd rather take warm over dark.
Buy the right equipment, and you're gonna have a great time. You get to surf a whole lot more, and you won't even have to think about it.
I'll let you guys know, if this beanie works, though, it'll make me surf more often because the effort of putting on the vest and hood is so much, and I end up getting very claustrophobic and I panic. So if this beanie works, if it does enough, I'll be happy. Or I'll lose it on the first wave. And it's going to be gone forever.
Does it have a chin strap?
No, it was $20 on Amazon. So
yeah.
Join us next week when we hear the tale of how Gabry lost her beanie.
Immediately. I won't even have a picture for you guys. It'll be gone.
Well, I'll see you out there. Hopefully Gabry and I will not have ear infections.
For the ear infection, get the Aerodrops. Aerodrop is 95% isopropyl alcohol and 5% glycerin, but it's a $4 or $5 bottle at Rite Aid, Walgreens.
Or you can do the really gross version that we used to do at summer camp: half apple cider vinegar, half warm water. It makes your ears smell gross.
Yeah.
It also does all of the things that's good for you.
You could also pick up like a $2 bottle of hydrogen peroxide. That will do it too.
I also have some like silicone earplugs, but I like hearing, I like talking. I go out. Surfing is a social event for me.
Yeah,
usually.
that would be weird.
So I, like even a hood, I'm like, I'm sorry, repeat that to my good ear, please. Yeah.
I had a proud moment in November. My son had his adenoids taken out. So surgery, they go in, they look in the ears too. I'm in the waiting room. The surgeon comes out after about 45 minutes. He said, everything looks good. Adenoids came out cleanly. But I got to ask, do you guys go to the beach a lot? Because your son had a lot of sand in his ears. And I was just like, yeah. He's like, it's like a surfer kid or something. And I'm like, yeah, I was thinking just a few days ago, he was at Sandbridge getting tossed by waves, tumbling around in the shore break. So pretty proud moment there. Surgeon went ahead and surgically cleaned out all that sand. It was pretty nice.
Yeah, so for like 2 days, he was sand free.
His son put it right back in.
Yeah. No, right when we got home, I just dumped some sand in. All right. Great stuff. Plenty to talk about next time. Appreciate all the listeners. Until then, keep surfing, keep praying, and keep charging. We'll see you on the next episode.